Hello there. This is All 24 News, World News Program with me, Karim Zachary. Next up are your headlines. U.S. President Joe Biden says the United States would defend Taiwan militarily if Beijing invaded the self-governing island, as described by the U.S. leader. Iran's Revolutionary Guard said on Sunday that one of its officers, Colonel Saeed Khudai, was killed in a rare assassination in Tehran, and President Raisi vows revenge. Russia continues its military operation mainly in the eastern region of Ukraine. Russian forces shelled the city of Severodonetsk as they left 12 deaths and at least 40 others were wounded. World Health Organization affirmed that there will be more monkeypox cases identified as surveillance expands in non-endemic countries, and Austria confirmed a case of monkeypox in the capital of Vienna. Hello again, those were today's top stories. First in our news, Russia continues its military operation mainly in the eastern region of Ukraine. Russian forces shelled the city of Severodonetsk as they left 12 deaths and at least 40 others were wounded. Russia has showed its aim of retaking control of the Kherson region as its forces continue their advancement. More details with Osama Ayadi.
At least 12 people were killed and 40 wounded in Russian shelling in the eastern Ukrainian city of Severodonetsk, over which Russian troops are trying to close the siege. Governor Sergei Gaidi said on Telegram that the shelling continues as the Russian army started shelling in the morning with heavy artillery. According to him, most of the shots hit residential buildings, and the balance could worsen, given the impossibility of inspecting the bombed areas.
The armed forces of Ukraine continue advancing to liberate the Kharkiv region, but in Donbass, the occupiers are trying to exert even more pressure. It's a hell there, and it's not an exaggeration. The brutal and absolutely senseless bombardment of Severodonetsk.
The mayor of Severodonetsk, Alexander Steryuk, stated that 15,000 of the 100,000 inhabitants that the city had before the war are still there. Ukrainian authorities stated that the weapon stock that was sent as aid from the West in the city of Severodonetsk has been under strikes. Plumes of smoke were covering the sky of the ruined city that is under the siege of the Russian military troops and pro-Russian separatists.
There were 12 killed and dozens wounded in just one day. The bombardment and shelling of other cities, air and missile strikes by the Russian army. All this is not just fighting during the war. Russian strikes on the Kharkiv region, particularly the terrible attack on Desna.
The industrial city of Lysychansk constitutes the last stronghold of Ukrainian resistance in the area. Both are located 80 kilometers east of Kramatorsk, which has become the administrative center of Ukrainian Donbass since separatists took over the eastern part of the region in 2014.
And in related news, pro-democracy Belarusian dissidents are conducting war games and learning how to fire a pistol and other guns in Poland. Under the watchful eye of a police officer turned private shooting instructor, recruits are preparing to join Ukraine's resistance. Russian troops have used Belarusian territory to invade Ukraine since the early days of the war. Some of the Belarusian fighters are only passing through on their way to Ukraine, while others have remained for training.
We taught tactics, the use of weapons during an attack or defense. In general, we started from the beginning. That is, we taught these people the basics of shooting, how to hold a weapon, how to reload, how to change magazines, how to work together as a team, and how to react in an attack or an ambush.
Russian soldiers entered the industrial grounds of Mariupol's Azovstal steelworks on Sunday as part of an operation to clear mines and debris from the area. The work is set to take about 2 weeks. On the other side of the conflict, the work on clearing the territory of Ukraine from the landmines scattered by Russia would take between 5 and 7 years, according to experts. Polish President Andrzej Duda highly supports Ukraine's candidacy for the European Union in the face of skepticism from France and Germany. Duda believes that all business with Russia is now impossible after the discovery of civilians' massacres in Ukraine, attributed to Russian troops. Poland has granted the right to live and work and claim social security payments to over 3 million Ukrainian refugees fleeing the conflict in Ukraine.
I have no doubt that the great and wealthy European Union will make a gesture, and I deeply believe that European leaders who take such decisions in the European Council will take the only right decision and open the EU to Ukraine.
The world's political and economic elite returned to Davos 2 years after the World Economic Forum was suspended due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and will hold a meeting dominated by the Russian-Ukraine crisis. Hossein Berkan reports.
We are eager to hear from you.
3 months after the start of the Russia special military operation in Ukraine, the crisis and the risk it poses to the global economic recovery are at the center of the gathering of world's elites, starting Monday in Davos. The World Economic Forum returns to the ski resort of the Swiss mountains after 2 years of suspension in light of the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic. After it held its meeting last year via internet and with its delay this year from January to May due to health conditions.
This war is really a turning point of history, and it will reshape our political and our economic landscape in the coming years. But we also are at the tail end of the most serious health catastrophe of the last 100 years. COVID-19, and we have to reinforce our resilience against a new virus possibly, or other risks which we have on the global agenda.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will be the first president to speak, and he is expected to use this rostrum to urge the world to provide more financial and military aid to his country, and possibly renew Kyiv's bid to join the European Union. This forum was the perfect opportunity for climate activists who gathered in the Davos to demonstrate against the forum.
Yeah, we demand more action from the economic leaders that are here in Davos, that they do more for climate change. I think there are a lot of things that change, but in the end the big steps were not made yet, and we need big steps that we actually tackle the climate crisis. And I see that there is a shift in values slowly, and that people talk about it more, and it's more important, it's more on the agenda.
Although the importance of the forum is often questioned today, it still attracts polls in politics and economics. This year, the attendance is expected to reach about 2,500 participants, including many heads of companies and more than 50 heads of states and governments, including German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, Emir of Qatar Sheikh Tamim bin Ahmed Al Thani, and U.S. climate envoy John Kerry, as well as the U.S. President Joe Biden.
Russia.
U.S. President Joe Biden says the United States would defend Taiwan militarily if Beijing invaded the self-governing island, as described by the U.S. leader. Biden said, when asked about a Tokyo press conference if the United States would intervene militarily against the Chinese attempt to seize the territory by force, that the U.S. agrees with the One China policy, but Taiwan taken by force is simply not appropriate.
Look, here's the situation. We agree with the One China policy. We've signed on to it, and all the attendant agreements made from there. But the idea that it can be taken by force, just taken by force, is just not appropriate. It will dislocate the entire region and be another action similar to what happened in Ukraine.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz met with Senegalese President Macky Sall to discuss the possibility of a major gas project as he began a three-nation visit to Africa on Sunday. The details in this report by Safian Kenturi.
During the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's visit to Senegal, he focused on geopolitical consequences on the conflict in Ukraine, emphasizing the readiness of Germany to continue to support countries that have difficulties in getting enough food.
Otherwise, the danger is great. I know that many countries in the world have the greatest difficulty in feeding their people. So we should not be indifferent. We're not indifferent, and we will do everything we can.
So the Senegalese president claimed that Senegal is ready to work on supplying liquid natural gas to Europe, but he emphasized that Senegal needs to be the first to be supported in this participation.
Senegal is ready to work with a view to supplying the European market with liquid natural gas. But first, we need to be supported in our participation under better conditions than those currently offered by our partners.
Macky Sall also made clear his position on the Russia-Ukraine conflict by claiming that the African countries want only peace, even though the crisis affects the whole world.
It is a conflict that is not regional. It takes place in another continent, but it affects us, and in Africa we want peace. We do not want to be aligned with this conflict, very clearly.
This week's trip marks Schulz's first Africa since becoming chancellor nearly 6 months ago. Two of the countries he's visiting, Senegal and South Africa, have been invited to attend the Group of 7 summit in Germany at the end of June.
Labour Party Anthony Albanese was sworn in as Australia's new Prime Minister on Monday, hours before heading to Japan, where he will be attending an international summit. The former centre-left opposition leader, who says Canberra is ready to commit to tackling climate change, will attend a Quad meeting or Quad summit on Tuesday in Tokyo.
I, Anthony Norman Albanese, do solemnly and sincerely affirm and declare that I will well and truly serve the Commonwealth of Australia, her land and her people in the office of Prime Minister. Obviously the Quad Leaders meeting is an absolute priority for Australia, and it enables us to send a message to the world that there is a change of government. There will be some changes in policy, particularly with regard to climate change and our engagement with the world on those issues.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard said on Sunday that one of its officers, Colonel Sayed Khudai, was killed in a rare assassination in Tehran, and images of the officer's blood-stained body in a car were shown on state TV. Khudai was one of the defenders of the shrines, the semi-official Tasnim news agency reported, referring to military personnel or advisors who Iran says fight on its behalf to protect Shiite sites in Iraq or Syria against terrorist groups. 2 people on a motorcycle opened fire on Khudai, Tasnim reported, citing an informed source, while the semi-official ISNA news agency reported that members of an Israeli intelligence service network had been discovered and arrested by the guards.
Those who have been defeated in the battlefield by forces defending the holy shrines of Shiite Muslims in Syria are expressing their frustration with such assassination attacks. I emphasize the serious pursuit of security officials, and I have no doubt the revenge for blood of martyr against the criminals will definitely be taken.
And it is worth recalling that Raisi vowed revenge against the killing of the guard. Moving on now, the Zionist entity barred entry of EU delegation, the European Parliament delegation, which has been forced to cancel a trip to the occupied Palestinian territories before the investigation of the murder of Shireen Abu Akleh. Abu Akleh was shot and killed by Zionist forces while reporting on a Zionist attack on Jenin in the occupied West Bank. And Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas says that the file had been transferred to international court. World Health Organization affirmed that there will be more monkeypox cases identified as surveillance expands in non-endemic countries. WHO's data shows that 92 confirmed cases and 28 suspected cases of monkeypox had been reported from 12 member states that are not endemic for monkeypox virus, with no associated deaths to date. On Sunday, Austria confirmed a case of monkeypox in the capital of Vienna, the first such infection reported this year. A judge has formally granted Julian Assange extradition to the United States on espionage charges in what will ultimately be a decision for UK Home Secretary Priti Patel. The WikiLeaks co-founder appeared via video link at the Westminster Magistrates Court hearing, which one of his barristers called as a short but critical point in the case. During the opening session of the UN agency's annual assembly, Director General of the World Health Organization warned that COVID-19 pandemic is certainly not over. More than 100 World Health Ministers are meeting in Geneva this week for the organization's first in-person World Health Assembly in 3 years. COVID-19 infections are still rising, and efforts to vaccinate the world remained incomplete, according to the Director General.
Reported cases have declined significantly from the peak of the Omicron wave in January of this year. And reported deaths are at their lowest since March 2020. In many countries, all restrictions have been lifted and life looks much like it did before the pandemic. So, is it over? No, it's most certainly not over. I know that's not the message you want to hear, and it's definitely not the message I want to deliver.
TV news anchors of major Afghan television channels appeared on Sunday on air with their faces covered, forced to obey an order from the Taliban that they had tried to defy since their return to power last year. The Taliban have imposed a series of restrictions on civil society, many of which are aimed at subjugating women to their own conception. Earlier this month, the Taliban supreme leader issued an order that all women must cover themselves fully in public, including the face, ideally with a burqa, a full-face veil with a fabric grid at eye level.
Today we're being forced to wear a mask. Tomorrow we will be wearing a shadari. But we will continue our fight to the end and not back down. A woman's identity must not be taken away from her. We want that international society hears our voice and understands that women in Afghanistan are not safe. In reality, it's miserable, but by crying, we don't want to show the world or the Islamic Emirate that their order has made us weak. In fact, I oppose this measure, and I will never cry because of this order. But I will do my best to resist, and I will be a voice for other Afghan girls.
The worst flooding in northeastern Bangladesh in nearly 20 years has begun to abate. But rescuers are still struggling to help the millions of people stranded by extreme weather that left around 60 deaths in the region. Floods are a regular threat to people in the lowlands of Bangladesh and neighboring northeast India. But many experts say climate change is increasing their frequency, ferocity, and unpredictability. At least 7 people died and around 100 were rescued in the Philippines on Monday after a ferry fire forced passengers overboard. The fire broke out on the Mercraft 2 while it was transporting 124 passengers from Polelo Island to Riau, in the province of Quezon, on the main island of Luzon. Philippine Coast Guard spokesman Armando Bilelo said that 7 people died and 120 were rescued. To Colombia now, 7 left-wing candidate Gustavo Petro, who's currently leading in the polls, closed his presidential campaign with a massive rally in Bogota. And large rallies were held for right-wing candidate Feco Gutierrez and Rodolfo Hernandez. Zahra Ferjani reports.
On Sunday, Colombia's leading presidential candidates, left-wing Gustavo Petro and center-right Federico Gutierrez, held their closing campaign in massive rallies in Bogota. Petro has pledged to stop all new oil development and redistribute pension savings, while Gutierrez has promised better salaries and cuts to inefficient government spending.
They call us populists. They cannot yet understand why there is a necessity to build pillars that will allow us to live in peace. Undoubtedly, we come from a Colombian history that identifies itself with, that is almost a synonym of permanent violence, an infinity eternal war that doesn't seem to end, of spilled blood by entire generations.
In recent polls, Petro, a former guerrilla who vows to tackle great inequality, held a big lead with 40.6% of support, according to a pollster in Weimar. Gutierrez held his campaign rally in Medellin, a city where he was mayor between 2004 and 2011.
While other campaigns focused on hate speech, I focused on proposals. I want to ask our followers to not fall on provocations. While others attack us, we'll hug them. While they insult us, we'll give more proposals for Colombia. Let's not lose focus. We're going to win, but the most important thing is not winning, but transforming Colombia.
The first round of elections will be held on May 29th. If no one wins more than 50% in the first round of voting, the two main candidates, Petro and Gutierrez, would head to a June runoff. Petro would win 52.7% against 44.2% for Gutierrez. More than 39 million Colombians are eligible to vote in the election.
The Stockholm International Peace Research Institute has painted a vast and disturbing picture in its latest report titled Environment of Peace, Security in a New Age of Risk. TNZT Research Institute, or CEPRI, which has received global recognition for its annual monitoring of international arms exports, warns of a global emergency. A complex environmental crisis and a darkening security horizon feed into each other in dangerous ways, write the CEPRI researchers. Cutting down forests, melting glaciers, and polluting the oceans are happening simultaneously, with an increase in the number of conflict-related deaths, spending on armaments, and the growing number of people at risk. Starvation and pandemics also present other dangers. On Sunday, the first baby formula shipment will arrive to U.S. in an effort to relieve a nationwide shortage. According to the White House, the shipments will arrive on military aircraft from Germany's Ramstein Air Base, carrying 132 pallets of baby formula. Miriam Zian on what follows.
An infant formula shipment will arrive in a military cargo plane carrying up to 1.5 million bottles of safe Nestlé baby formula from Germany to address a critical shortage in the United States.
What you can see behind me is a loading cargo buildup process for baby formula that is being sent back to the United States to medical facilities to help with the shortage of baby formula.
The Department of Agriculture announced that additional flights will be announced in the next days, while President Joe Biden signed a legislation aimed at improving access to the formula for low-income families. The access to baby formula ensures families can use benefits from the special supplemental nutrition program for women, infants, and children to buy formula products outside what is normally designated for the program during times of crisis. A top baby formula maker shut down in February after 4 babies who consumed Abbott products became sick, making shelves in many markets completely bare, and parents of newborns panicked all over the USA. The White House has been under intense pressure to do more to address the baby formula shortage over the past week.
So within days, it will get better, but it will be a few weeks before we're back to normal.
It also includes ensuring that lower income families can access different brands of baby formula by working through with the WIC for the exemptions for the WIC programs.
The scarcity is said to be caused by rules and regulations that protect the few biggest companies that produce baby powder in the world's largest economy, and by lack of competition.
More than 100 million people have been driven from their homes around the world, the UN Refugee Agency said on Monday, citing new data about those escaping violence, conflict, persecution, and human rights violations. The UNHCR data includes refugees, asylum seekers, and those displaced within their own countries. Last week, a humanitarian body said those displaced within their own countries had reached a record of close to 60 million people by the end of last year. And to mechanic sports finally, Max Verstappen recaptured the Formula 1 points lead on Sunday, winning the Spanish Grand Prix for the third time in a row after Charles Leclerc's Ferrari broke down when he was safely in front. During this race, Max required the help of Red Bull teammate Sergio Perez to win his fourth race of the season. Verstappen, who won his maiden race here in 2016, has surpassed Leclerc in the driver standings and currently leads by 6 points after 6 races.
A lot of tailwinds, so I just lost the rear, went off, and then of course I was in the train and I tried to pass, but my DRS was not always working, so yeah, that made it very tough, but we managed to due to the strategy to get ahead again and do our own race and eventually win the race. So difficult beginning, but a good end.
Well, that's all we have for now. Thank you for tuning into our channel, and bye for now.